Welcome to Try It 2. Categorical data, frequency and proportion with multiple predictor variables. We're going to build on a lot of the same skills that we were practicing in Try It 1 because we're still focusing on categorical data, but we're complicating it by adding additional predictor variables. The data set we're using this time is the Union Army deaths by rank and duty. It's information drawn from the American Civil War. We're going to have variables that tell us the cause of death, whether they died from illness, from injury, or other. And we're going to also know what rank they were. The rank's going to be divided into whether they were a private, the lowest ranking soldiers, or if they were higher ranking soldiers. And then we're also going to know what their duty assignment was. Were they assigned to the infantry, the foot soldiers, or were they assigned to other regiments, the cavalry or the artillery? This data set is a random sample of 4,295 soldiers who served in the Union Army. There were 2,128,948 soldiers in the United States Army. We've got a random sample of 4,295 of those records. The fact that I'm saying that it's a random sample is very important. A random sample means that of those over 2 million records, every single one had an equal chance of being selected. So the sample that we end with is representative of that entire population. Any conclusion we draw from this data will be true of the population of all Union soldiers. The raw data must look something like this, where we have our variables in the columns. What was the rank of this soldier? What duty were they assigned to? What was their disposition? Did they survive? Did they die? If they died, what did they die of? Did they die of illness or injury or other? And each participant would be listed on a row, each record. Each row would indicate an individual soldier. So how many variables have we been talking about? Let's think about some labels for those. Let's think about whether they're continuous or categorical. If they're continuous, what scale are they on? If they're categorical, what are the levels? All right, I'll let you in on a hint. The whole title of this, categorical data. There are 3 variables. They're all measured categorically. We can recognize that they're categorical because the different levels have words as labels. They're mutually exclusive. They're not along a number line. They're not continuous. So let's think about some of the questions that can be answered by this data. We will want to be thinking about questions like, well, how many, fill in the blank, how many soldiers survived? How many soldiers died? How many soldiers died of illness? We could also think about questions of which is more likely. Were the privates more likely to die than the higher ranking soldiers? Were the infantry more likely to die than the other assignments? Those are the sorts of questions that we're going to be addressing. The data set's already been summarized. The summarized data consists of counts of how many soldiers fall into each group. Let's go and get the data. The data set we're going to use is located at the University of Florida Statistics Department's website. They've got this lovely site of miscellaneous data sets. So to locate the one, we're looking for Union Army deaths by rank. You know what? I'm just going to do a find. There we are. Union Army deaths by rank and duty. If I click on the first link where it says data, I see the data. It's not telling us much yet, is it? But there we are. That's the data we're going to be using. Let's look at the other piece of information we've got here, the description. All right, so here's the data set. It's giving us the source, it's giving us the description, and then it's giving us the very important key of what do these columns mean. So the first column is whether or not the soldier was private, if there was a private. If it's a 1, that means that they were a private. If it's a 0 in that first column, that means they were higher ranked. So this is the coding for this data. Then it's the infantry indicator. 1 is they were in the infantry. 0 is that they were assigned to a different duty. And then there's the number of soldiers and the mortalities from any cause, the mortalities from injury, from illness, and then the mortalities from injury. And these are saying that this is in columns 5 through 8, 9 through 12. 10 through 12. So let's take a look at that data again. So this is whether one of those variables, this is another one of those variables. Here's the total, and then those other columns. Let's right-click on that link and say, save this link as, and it's going to be saving it as a .dat file. I'm just going to save it right here. We could also have navigated to the data and then selected all. I'm going to use the Command and the A button to select all, Command and copy to copy, Command and C to copy. But either way, we're going to now need to put this data into Excel. So let's open up Excel. I'm going to go ahead and just choose a blank workbook. And I'm going to use the copy and paste. So I have already copied the source. So it's on my clipboard. And I'm now going to just paste. I'm active in cell A1. I'm going to do Command V to paste. And that has pasted that data into that first cell, into that first column. Now I could also have opened up that .dat file, and if you do that, there are you end up at about the same place. Follow along in the tutorial. So, wow, all of our data is in one column. Do you see that? If I make that wider, we can see it's all there. So in cell 1, A1, we've got 1, 1, 2, 2, we've got all of that information in one cell, in one column. And we need to cut it up across columns. So how do we do that? We're going to select the column. We're going to select the column that the data is in, and we're going to choose from the Data pull-down menu, Data, Text to Columns. Now that pulls up this Text to Columns wizard, step 1 of 3. The first thing it's asking is this delimited with commas or tabs or spaces, or is it a fixed width? We can choose either. We've got spaces between our data points, so it is delimited, but it is also fixed width where you can easily see the division between the columns of data. Let's just leave it with the fixed width and choose next. So Excel has guessed and said, here are the spaces that I think exist. Are these the way that you want to break up this text into columns? So it's added these lines, and you can click and drag and move them if you wanted. You could add more just by clicking, double click to undo it, to delete it. So Excel's made a great guess. Excel's made the right decision in this case. So we don't need to change anything. We can choose next. And it's asking what format we want. So let's just leave it with general for right now. and click Finish. All right, so there is our data. We need to add the column headers. So we want to have in row 1 the labels of what those variables are. In order to insert a row, we're going to click to select that row. If we right click, we can just choose Insert right there, and that's going to insert a row and push those down. Let's type the column labels. If you don't remember, you can always go back to the website and remind yourself. But I can let you know that this one was whether or not they were private. This one is whether or not they were in the infantry. This is the total from in the sample. This is the died from any cause. This is died from illness. And this is died from injury. So we've got our summarized data, our initially summarized data, and we've got our column headers. This seems like a good time to preserve the raw data. So let's practice that good habit. We're going to select the data. We're going to copy it. We're going to add a sheet. We're going to paste the data here. And then we're going to name our sheets. So let's go back to this one and call this one raw data. And we're going to double click on that word sheet 2 and call this one visualization.